Assalamu alaikum everyone, and welcome back to the second episode of Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis course. Before beginning, thank you guys so much for your feedback about the first episode, and I can see that future projects are already built in your minds just by having this passionate vision and getting motivated to continue this course. So, if you saw and studied the first course of mindset done by Dr. Abdel Jalil, you already tackled this part of this video and a big part of this video or this course, and it is the research question. Okay, so the learning objective of this episode is mainly to transform the vague clinical curiosity that you had in your first episode to a precise question. Okay, and this is very relevant because you can't just write your question in a vague way and expect precise results. And I need you to grasp something. It's all about precision in research, okay? And you need to recognize the difference between primary and secondary outcomes too. And what do I mean by that? For example, the question, if it's a PICO question, your goal is to differentiate between what you need to answer and what you can answer. Okay, for example, the outcome for a comparison between two medications is safety, for example. So the safety is the first primary outcome. Okay, secondary outcomes can include something like the efficiency, the cost effectiveness, and all other secondary outcomes. Okay, and also you need to know that this research question directly control all the following parts afterwards. So this is really important, guys. Let's continue. So we saw the problem. Okay, in the last episode, the study, if you remember, the studies say one thing, the other says the complete opposite thing, and we get stuck as doctors. Okay, but if the question we ask is precise, we will have a great review. If we ask like a sloppy question, it will give us a sloppy review, no matter how good our statistic is. Okay, there is a saying here in secondary analysis called garbage in, garbage out. Okay, so if we are having a bad question, we can't expect great results. So here is the question a medical student might type to Google: what's the best treatment for migraine? Yeah, it sounds reasonable. But yeah, if you are like a fourth or fifth medical student or an intern or even a physician, try to answer it. Yeah, you can't, because it's not precise. So why I say it's not precise? The best for who? For children, for adults? Compared to what? What's the severity of the migraine? What other symptoms they have besides migraine? So actually it's not that easy to answer. So without those answers, we can't search. Okay, you can't screen, you can't analyze. So it's not a valid question. Okay, it's just a wish. It's something a patient will ask Google, not you as a researcher. So this is the PICO, population intervention comparison and outcome. Okay, 4 letters. Each one forces the researcher to pin down a different piece of the question. You need to be objective, so it's like a little recipe, and if you are missing an ingredient, you're done. You can't. The dish won't look good. Okay, and it will not even work. It's like forgotten oil in a tagine or something. So let's walk through each one, and we'll use the real a real study as a review example for every letter. In our study that it's published, by the way, P is for population. Who are we actually studying? Okay, that need to be precise. For our case, it was adult patients with diabetes undergoing CABG surgery. Okay, and you need to be precise enough that you could look at the patient and decide yes or no. This is actually very, very important, because down the stream you will need to do that, and you will do that. Okay, you need to be so precise that a study will be included or excluded. For example, if you come across a study that has patients with diabetes, but they don't undergo CABG, okay, they are undergoing another cardiothoracic surgery, but not CABG. Same for patients who has, for example, metabolic disease, not specifically diabetes. And for intervention, what's the new thing? The thing being tested. Okay, in our review, it's off-pump CABG versus on-pump surgery. Okay, and intervention, it's one of these two arms. We use two arms, but you can have one arm. So I is off-pump. Okay, and the standard traditional will be on-pump. Okay, you will see here against what the on-pump. So off-pump is we shut down the heart for the cardiac surgery. On-pump is the heart is still beating. Okay, and the outcome is what are we measuring, and for example, yeah, this is a good example. Is it better? So is it better is not an outcome. We need something. We need something more precise and measurable, especially if we want to do a meta-analysis. Okay. So for our paper, we had the early mortality and long-term survival as a primary outcome, and why I will explain later on why we chose these. But just for your information, there was no meta-analysis that treated or answered the question about long-term survival between on-pump and off-pump, and we did that. That's the main reason our study got published. So these are the headline questions, and we can also have secondary outcomes like stroke, bleeding. We had up to 9. I don't remember if 9 other questions, or bleeding, stroke, atrial fibrillation, and all other questions that we can ask. So here we will be tackling. It's just like a quick note on primary versus secondary. So the primary outcome is the one question your review exists to answer, like this one, long-term survival. Okay. Others are bonus. Okay. So this matters because if you have like 15 outcomes and one of them happens to be significant, people will claim your review proves something, when really you're testing just outcomes. But you need to be precise. Pick one primary outcome and then focus on it. And the primary outcomes are usually the ones that we don't have the answer to yet in the literature. There's a gap, okay? Sometimes we add one more letter, okay? It's the study design. Why? Because not every study design answers the same question the same way, okay? You already know this from Abdel Jalil course. A randomized control trial and an observational study can point in different directions. So you need to decide upfront if you are going with every primary article or you're using a design like just randomized control trials, maybe, not cohorts. For example, if we want to gather everything in our PICO, this is a question. In adult diabetic patients undergoing CABG, does off-pump surgery compared with on-pump surgery affect mortality and major complications, as shown in propensity-adjusted observational studies? So our study design was propensity scored observational studies, and you can see down here the meaning of every color. So here's why it's very important, because the PICO, the question that we are writing, it's not just like a luxurious branding, or it's driving everything that follows this question. You will see it in your eyes in the next episodes, because it's very, very important. And actually, you will be answering everything based on these PICO criteria, okay? So when you search, your terms come from PICO. In the screening, the data you extract come from the PICO. And for the analysis too, the statistical methods you use come from the PICO. And if your question is fuzzy, broad, your steps downstream gets fuzzier, and that gets more broad, okay? That's why your question need to be sharp and precise. And the rest of the review will practically write itself. And I had an example actually with writing a not broad, but not precise PICO. And the downstream steps were very bad. We had to begin from the beginning. So I think we're done here, yeah. And now with the famous final slideshow. And your mission here is to take the topic you chose last time, if you are still passionate with that question, or a new one, and build your first PICO. But you need to be precise, okay? Prepare it, let's say, in four separate lines as shown here, and stitch them into a single sentence, like the one this one, okay? And if it's not good, if you hesitate, try again and write it again. And then in the next episode we will use it to plan into your first review, because before we touch the database, there is one more thing we need to build, inshallah. Let's see each other in the next week, inshallah, for the third episode. See you there.